Hello and welcome. My name is Victor, and you're listening to the Nordic Takedown. We're all the way to episode 63. Well, actually, this was supposed to be episode 62, but then Lil happened, and well, yeah, it was kind of a thing for our team, so we got pushed back with this one. But this one is a wow, I'm so excited for this episode. We've got a great guest, but before that, let me tell you who's with me here today. Pontus, recurring guest, and our shot maker extraordinaire of our streams. Welcome, Pontus.
Thanks. Yeah, looking forward to this chat.
Yeah, you haven't been on the pod for a while now. You doing okay?
Yeah. It's been great. I was last time was with Matthias talking about judge stuff, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
Something like that.
Yep. So glad to have you here with me. And we have got a very cool guest with us today. We've got Jonathan Fisher from the Bothan Network and one of my favorite Star Wars Unlimited podcasts across the network. Welcome, Jonathan.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me. I'm also excited. You guys reached out asking to talk about stats. I've been talking to Pontus since Hunter came out.
Yeah.
Since
like
the
August
leader Hunter. Yeah, we've been, brainstorming Hunter decks back and forth. After I opened a showcase, I was like, I got to play Hunter.
And I just stumbled onto the Bothan network and like, hey, talk to Jonathan.
So this is just like, I don't know, serendipitous or whatever that we're on this podcast together. And we've been talking for a while. And I keep finding that happen within this community for Star Wars Unlimited, that I'm connected to so many people. And then we realize, oh, we're actually connected here. And it all just continues to get interwoven. And yeah, you mentioned my podcast across the network. We're on episode 9. We're not in the 60s. So that's amazing. And I think we're at the point where I'm actually proud enough to talk about it. Like, we've been learning and trying so hard on our format and figuring out what we want to do. In my opinion, the first 3 episodes, I'm like learning a lot, and I just put it out there. Like, I'm just like, hey, the content's good. It's not perfect yet, audio wise, but it's still good content. People can listen to it. But we've gotten to the point where I really think we have a good method. We have great content. Our guests are, I don't even know how we get these people. Like, we've had Mike and Stevie from KTOD. We've had Philip from McClunky Gaming after he won the Bothan Invitational 6K. And then, of course, I bring my own teammates who are incredible people onto the podcast. But what I really love, I love bringing my teammates on because they're my homies and I like hanging out with them. But I have the most fun when I bring people in that aren't from my team, because I don't get to talk to these people all the time. It's just awesome talking to them and hearing their thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the community around SVU is just something else, isn't it? Like you reach out to people and everyone is just willing to cooperate about things. And the 3 of us found a little chord here with statistics, and that is going to be the main focus on this episode. So first, we're going to talk a little bit about tournament statistics and what kind of stats we are looking to bring up and so on for when we're streaming, because we're all involved in streaming to certain degrees. And that's one of the main topics for today. We're also going to do a little bit of predictions. We're going to place our porg bets and make some predictions for what we think about set 6, because we're right in the spoiler season for set 5, and that has a great strong theme. But what the heck is up with set 6? That name is really, really enticing to me. Yeah, Secrets of Power. I mean, that's an enticing name. So we're going to speculate a little bit about that, and then we dive straight back into stats and how you can use stats for your own playing and your own testing and all that jazz. So excited to get into that. Let's dive in. Tournament stats. Why do we want to put statistics? Such a geeky thing. And everyone just goes nuts to see a graph or a chart on the streams. Why are we using it? What's good about it?
We have to
Yeah.
know what's the best.
I mean, I know Pontus, you do a lot of stats work, so I'm curious to hear your thoughts. But for me, when it comes to stats, I'm a math guy. I studied mathematics in university, but I was more on the like discrete math, analytics, like a
Computer
little
stuff.
not statistics. Yeah, I was studying computer science. That's right. So I like systems. I like proofwriting because you're trying to like make a claim and find a way to prove that that claim's true or not. But when it comes to tournament statistics, to me, it's about answering questions.
Yeah.
I like
Mm.
thinking about questions, writing them down, and figuring out, can we answer this question that I have? Like, which card is the highest impact when you draw it and play it? How often are you resourcing this card?
Yeah.
How often is it being played in the top decks? Which cards are most represented in the losing decks? Like, what card are people thinking, hey, this is a great card? Actually, it's not. Like, it's all about these questions, and that is what I focus on, is the questions themselves. And then the statistics is just different ways to figure out how can we answer these questions. That's how I think about it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think my biggest question right now, after I've been fiddling with this, is how do we actually know what is a good deck? Like that's the big one, because like, yeah, you can look at the statistics and see like these decks, like this leader and base combination is performing well and conversion rates and all that stuff. But is it the player or is the deck? Like, how do we know that?
Right. Oh yeah, there's a lot of that, and we're just getting started, right? So we don't have enough data to figure out when it's the pilot, the player that's impacting performance of a deck or a configuration of a deck or cards that are included, or matchup percentages, etc. We don't have that data yet. But as these tournaments are going on, that data is going to start collecting up. I mean, it already is starting to pile up a bit within each region as we have these larger tournaments that FFG is running in season 0. And after couple more seasons, we're going to have a much stronger idea of which of these pilots should we be adding weights to our statistics based on who's piloting the deck. How should we be starting to account for things like that? And it's just going to get more interesting, in my opinion.
Most of what you're talking about now is about looking at the stats after a tournament, trying to make sense of what happened. But I'm also very curious about and as a caster, I'm very intrigued by the possibilities of charts and statistics to make sense of what you're actually watching. Like when we have a stream, it's such a limited scope. You're only seeing one game taking place, and a tournament, it can be like in little, there were hundreds and hundreds of games taking place at the same time. And if I as a caster can make that intelligible in some way to the people watching, it's that's the thing for me. Like, how do I give a more complete picture of what's actually happening here? Yeah,
that's actually what more interesting to me right now than the post analysis. So I like the in the moment analysis. I don't know, like the live analysis versus the post analysis. The live analysis is what I've been working on recently. With the tournaments when I'm working with Loopy and C Raptor. Which, by the way, we all work together. You might not know that if you're listening or watching these streams. You might think, oh, here's C Raptor's stream. He's doing all these things, clearly he's working on his own, or here's Loopy stream. No, we all work together across the entire SWU community. A lot of it is initiated by Loopy and his attitude of all rising tides raise all boats is the common quote that he likes to use to say, look, I don't care. I want to help everybody. It's going to help us all.
Yeah, Loopy brought us all together in that, like making a common space for everyone to talk and communicate, and that's such a great thing. That's
really.
And that's also when you see all the different streamers and content creators start to get their crazy ideas together and start piecing things together. That's such an exhilarating atmosphere to be in. If you're just listening to this podcast, you can just see the results of that. But there are some really cool things brewing for the coming things. It's interesting. Many games you will have like the organization will also provide like the content, the streaming and like the coverage of their own content. That is not the case, especially not in the US. And on PQ level, it's all been from amateurs like ourselves going out there covering different tournaments and trying to just bring this game that we love so much out to more people. What do you think is like? What can we do? What is the next step for Star Wars Unlimited in getting and presenting a more complete picture during tournaments?
Yeah, I think we're doing the best we can as a like grassroots community effort where everything is funded by people that are getting involved. All the equipment is provided by us, all the network connections, like everything we're doing, all the setup, all the streaming setup, the commentary, everything from the ground up is all community driven, 100%. I think that could change a little. Like that's something that we can improve if folks at FFG wanted to find a way to get a bit more involved in that process, to encourage people that are currently driving these things to continue to do it, because it's fun and exciting to do it, but other than that, what kind of motivators could we introduce to help keep that going? I think that would be useful. I've heard it from some folks. I mean, when you do commentary, you kind of take your whole day off to do it, and it is fun and cool. And I mean, we're all Star Wars nerds, and we love talking about this game. That's why we're doing it. But it would be good to get a little more involved from their end. The contrast between US and Europe is interesting to me. Like the Lil, am I saying that correctly?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a French name, so it's
I don't
totally
know.
different. But
yeah, I don't know. But Fanfinity, right? Like that organization
OP
doing
and
the coverage.
Yeah,
That's so different than what you see in the US, where we're just doing it ourselves and asking for permission to do it and getting the permission, but still, it's all us.
I mean, it is a little bit different. OPE started in the UK and putting on tournaments in the UK, and they were like a TO organization that wanted to have good coverage of their own productions. So they did both from the beginning, and then they were awarded these three. The two SQs and the RQ. So they were the TOs for that. When it comes to PQs and that level, it's all run by stores, and the coverage of that has all been down to people like us, just like in the US. We covered the three Scandinavian PQs last set, and we are working we're scrambling right now to be able to cover at least some of the Scandinavian PQs for this set as well, but it's dodgy right now.
I think that's actually correct for the PQ level. As we get into this game and get into the tournament structure of this game, PQs were, and in the season 0, are weighted higher than they will be in the future. They should be like this a little more casual local event that people aren't necessarily traveling for. But because of the reward structure that's in place for season 0, people are traveling to them. People are looking at the results, and it is a little more meaningful than I think it's going to be down the line. And I think grassroots coverage of PQs probably is correct, even in the future.
Yeah. So back to statistics, like working with a really strong tournament software like Melee. What are the possibilities for smaller streamers like ourselves? What could we possibly be doing with this?
Yeah, there's a lot. Melee. So we reached out to Brad Nelson, who owns Melee, and asked him like, hey, how can we get connected? How can we get API access? And he referred us to their support, and C-Raptor and myself getting this access, and they did it immediately, right? Like they set it up so that anytime we're added to a tournament as coverage, with the Star City Games organization, who's running the stuff in the US, right? So as long as we're added to that tournament as coverage, then we'll be able to use our credentials to make API calls to get whatever data we want to drive like live coverage widgets, right? So the idea would be in the coverage software, maybe we have like a scrolling banner at the bottom. Just kind of anything that you see in sports
Yeah,
casting
exactly. I was
is
thinking.
kind of where we're going, like live data. So like when you're watching a baseball game or basketball game or whatever sport it is, soccer, football, whatever you call it,
Yeah,
there's going to be like data on screen of other ongoing matches
Yeah.
and their results
exactly.
and their current scores. And we can do that round to round. Like in a round, we can tell you as tables finish, like what player won at table one, etc., things like that. And as the personalities in this community for tournament grinders become more known, it can be a little more interesting for a viewer to be like, oh, Tata just won on table 3 with his brand new breakout deck that we just covered last round. That's cool. That's good
Yeah,
to know. That means I might see future rounds with him. So things like any kind of live data like that, we do have APIs that we can hook up to things that run in coverage, and then things that we review between rounds during that downtime. So we can start to get really creative with data that we show on screen during those are the two like big moments, I think. Like live data that you want on screen as you're covering an ongoing match, and then data that you want to review and discuss and have talking points about between matches.
Yeah, I
yeah,
think you're onto something. Like when you compare to sports, the analogy I want to use is covering a SWU tournament is much like skiing. When you look at the Winter Olympics and you see the long distance skiing, and you get to follow a couple of people, or if you're looking at bicycling, like Tour de France or something, you get to watch a little piece of the action and follow that little piece of the action for a while, and then to make sense of that you need to have some kind of graphical means to show the route. Where are they? How far from the goal are they? What's happening behind them, in front of them? That's where we're at right now. We're trying to figure out how to visualize all that, the rest of it, and that's really exciting to me. You have
Yeah.
been a huge help to me during our streams, Pontus, providing with me with graphics and data and heat maps and whatnot. Like, what do you think are the best graphical tools to use to make sense of the kind of data that we get during the tournaments?
that's a good question. I mean, like, I think the what Jonathan is talking about, the banners and stuff, like, but also like just bars and stuff. Doesn't like talking about the statistics, showing like the conversion rates, even though that's just a part of it, showing like what the conversion rates, or showing like the percentages of how many Sabines are in this tournament, and how like all of those things that we've already been seeing. Like, I think the problem for me is like getting access to the API to be able to do that really well. But I've been doing it all manually, so
Yes,
Oh
good
yeah.
one.
Me too so far. I haven't like had a live tournament to practice using the APIs. We're getting together. We have a Minneapolis tournament coming up. We're getting together this week to start like some brainstorming sessions and figuring out how we can move that data, test the APIs, push that data to where it needs to be so that we can show it on screen. We're working on that, but
Yeah, you and
yeah,
Wes are really the trailblazers here. Wes, C-Raptor, you guys are
yeah.
really pushing the limits here.
So Wes has this attitude of like, why is he even doing this? Why is he traveling to do coverage? And it was because he had a lot of experience doing other game coverage, and was watching SWU and thinking, let me see what I can do. Maybe I can push the limits. Maybe I can like show the community what's possible. And that's kind of his attitude. So if I have a crazy idea, he's willing to try it to see if we can push the limits, which is a good combination, I think. Like someone crazy like me that wants to try crazy stuff, and someone crazy like him that wants to see if he can do it.
Yeah. You gotta love the dude. He's awesome.
That's crazy.
So we were talking a little bit earlier on about analyzing tournaments afterwards. And I think that's what people have been doing the most. What kind of data are people asking for, and how can we provide it best?
Yeah, for me, there's two main resources. SWU Competitive Hub
Yeah,
is,
Noxum's
the best
awesome.
place to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's crushing it. And he does, from what I understand, he does it a lot like how I'm doing it, where it's a lot of spreadsheet driven. He's just got the data, and he, is presenting it in the web format, and just kind of learned how to do that from the ground up. I don't think he ever did it before, from what he told me. And he's just like, look, I want to build this, and he's doing it. And it requires a lot of community engagement to get that data in there for him. But I think he provides an amazing service to anybody that's interested in tournament data. Go to SWU Competitive Hub and check that out. And then otherwise, the other big resource for me, do you guys talk about online ways to play this game on this podcast?
Not really.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, there's other resources out there, and there's great communities building data tools around those resources.
Yeah.
Go check them out, I would say.
There's actually a new page that what's it called? Noxo, is that his name? Has been pushing for as well. A friend of his or someone he knows that's talking about soostats.net.
Oh yeah, no, it's a deck builder that is affiliated with some of the online software, but it's basically a deck builder tool. So, so that's a really good one, and it can help you keep track of any kind of gameplay you do.
That's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
We at Bothan Network, my team, we collaborate with them a bit to help, like, give them ideas of how they could build good tools to help groups of people that want to collect statistics for their group. Because a lot of problems come up in that, where you're like, okay, what if I get matched into someone else that's on a team? Do I want my data to be in their, statistics repository?
Yeah.
What do I want? Only data that's between other people that are in my group? Like, how do you want to handle that? There's a lot of questions that come up as you look into collecting statistics based on your own testing.
We'll get deeper into that in a bit, but like something I think would be really interesting if you look at a zoomed out picture, that would be if a page like SWUDB would start collecting statistics on card usage. And that what would be interesting there is it's not actually from play, but from people's theory crafting and from people's building, and start seeing like how often do people use things. That be some kind of data that I'd be interested in to see.
It's hard to
that's
know.
True.
It's hard to know how relevant that specific data will be, though.
Right.
But when you get such a huge data set, you're going to get like trends, and you're going to see what people are interested in, rather than what's actually working, but what people are interested in.
But you would also get I don't want to be negative, but you would also get like a lot of people copying a specific deck that's very popular, and the spiking some specific card or
right.
Like, so
maybe that's meaningful data.
It could be meaningful
that's
data.
Kind of
kind like
of,
look, this deck's getting copied a lot.
Yeah,
people are interested in it.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
And then you can like ignore the Jonathan and Pontus Hunter decks that are just polluting the data. Like, whoa, why are these guys making so many Hunter decks?
I'm gonna make so many copies of my Hunter decks.
I mean, it is like I've after Lil now, there's been such an interesting discussion about like the winning deck list. We're going to by the time this episode is actually airing, we probably have a deck tech out on the channel, because the winner Jonas is a really good friend of ours. But that deck is puzzling. A lot of people are really puzzled about that deck.
Yeah.
And that's not even.
I love it.
I love it too.
That episode. if you're listening here and you didn't listen to that episode, I bet it's amazing. Go check
Yeah,
it
yeah.
out.
it's gonna be, but and that's he's not even close to the craziest deck builder in that top 8, because you got the Birch there as well, the man that cannot stick to the minimum number of cards, and like the monstrosities that man builds.
So cool.
It's just he's so cool and he's so weird and he's so incredibly good at the game. And I think like
Yeah.
when I look at his deck lists, I see cards that I don't even know how to use. I don't know why they're there. I need to listen to him and see him play to understand why they're even there. And that's really interesting to me. And if
That
you
gets me excited about the game, seeing that like there are so many possibilities that people aren't even trying to tap into.
exactly.
And suddenly you see them pop up in like winning a tournament, for example, with a card
Yeah.
that no one uses, like stuff like that.
So that's the difference between quantitative and qualitative data in a nutshell. Like you got the quantitative data, what we were talking about, like what's performing the best, and then you got the qualitative data where you can look at a stream and see how does this weird man Birch play this weird deck with too many cards, and keep winning, and you start seeing how to do things. And I think if there was a way to start visualizing that kind of data as well, like making that sort of data like connected to cards, like this is a way to play a card, this is the decks it's been in, and this is how it's been played. That's the future. Like that's the sci-fi element to me. If we could ever make a graphic representation of that in a place like SwooDB.
It's so complicated though. Like
Yeah.
what even is a deck? Like how do we find the difference
Yeah.
between the two decks and say that this one is the same deck as the other one? Then
Yeah.
like even though they don't have the exact same cards, like it's so
Yeah.
so hard, such a hard problem for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, some of this stuff is why I try to start with the actual question.
Yeah.
Like really refine what that question is, what we're trying to answer, and start digging into it and ask further questions about like what's actually meaningful. So like if you look at you could look at maximum cards,
Yeah.
or minimum cards, like decks that have more than the minimum cards. Like what is that actually doing? How can we analyze that? How can we think about it? And if there's only a few people doing it, is it useful to think about it and analyze it? Like, are we wasting our time? So is this just somebody that's committed to the meme and really also thinks that we're crazy for having an opinion on adding 1 to 2 extra cards to our deck, that we're just wrong, that is significantly detrimental or detrimental at all?
Yeah.
Like the questions and the conversations that come out of trying to dig into the data and figure out how to answer those questions gets really interesting.
Yeah, I love that. All right, so that is actually more on the deck building and deck tuning and testing part, which we will dig into. But before we do, let's have some fun. We are right now in the spoiler season for the Legends of the Force set. So that set is making me excited in so many ways. But then you have the next set coming up. It's called Secrets of Power. And what could it possibly be that is the theme of that? If we look at set 1, that was all about like the original trio. It was all about Rebels versus Imperials. The second set was much more of a loose theme across a lot of different thematic elements, and it was all about the underground, but also Mandalorians, and you got like some really cool mechanical thematics in that set. And then you got set 3, which again was very narrow in thematical. Like it was all about that first Phantom Menace movie, and especially the Clone Wars. And then when it came to mechanical aspects, it was much more grounded and easy, like not as wild, if you want. And now we're in set 4 with some really wild mechanical aspects, as well as a pretty strong theme, I think, with this, like this the space arena and spaceships and everything connected with that, fighters and pilots and all that. what are we going to see from something called Secrets of Power? What's your best guess?
Do you want to go first, Jonathan?
Okay, I will. I will go first. Okay. Have you guys read Machiavelli's The Prince?
Yep.
Haven't read it, but I've heard of
Pontus?
it and
Okay.
know some stuff from it. Yeah.
All right. It's one of my favorite books, and it's not very large. It's not a long, big book. Like, if you haven't read it, go out and read it. It's really interesting.
100 pages or so.
Yeah, it's like a letter or series of letters, right? So it's not like this big giant novel, but he gets into the secrets of power. is what the prince is about. So where does power come from? Where do you derive it from? How do you apply it? Who holds it? Who maintains it? How do you hold it? How do you maintain it? And maybe these are the types of themes we might get into with this set. So in the Star Wars universe, you've got Jedis, you've got Sith, you've got politicians, you've got military leaders. So like military leaders within the rebellion and within the Empire, and then leaders within the Jedi and within the Sith. And they represent different forms of power, like religious power, monetary power, military power. And so maybe we'll get like a bunch of these lead characters that represent that different type of influence. And that could be the kind of theme that we're going for. That's my call. That's my prediction.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to what I was thinking, like with something with like your politics and stuff like that. I'm wondering if one idea I have, one like bet I know, is that it could be more focused on twin suns and have like a system for like politics in twin suns. You could have like events that let you do like voting and stuff like that, for example.
Oh, I like that idea.
That could be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're looking at somewhat similar ideas. I think thematically we might be pulling from like ISB agents and like the Cassian Andor has been heavily featured already, but like the kind of the Bothan network, like the hundreds of Bothan that died to bring you this secret plans, like the spies of the thing, but also obviously the political side of it, like and I would like mechanically for there to be sort of a political game to it. It doesn't really have to be restricted to melee format. The Twin Suns. It could definitely be part of the game. So in the old Star Wars LCG, the Force mechanic in that game was called the Force Struggle. So you would commit your units to the Force, and it had a downside, but then you got to affect the Force. And in a game like Vampire: The Eternal Struggle, you have like different ranks on your characters, which you can use to vote on specific events. You have very powerful events that then the whole table will have to vote on, and whoever has the most votes can pull together the most votes will be able to distribute the effects of the event according to their wishes. So a combination of those two, like if you could commit your units to like the political or spy struggle or something, which would bring a downside to them, but they will be able to affect these strong events then, and that would be strong and very much fun in a game like Twin Suns, but could also be very useful in and interesting in a regular game as well.
Yeah, I bet we're going to see something like that, like with voting and like something like that. I don't know how it will work in two-player game though, but yeah,
like you have to commit more than your opponent all the time if you are running those kinds of events. Like in a game when no one seems to be running those events, you might not commit that much to it. But then if you are, or you think your opponent is running those events, then you might have to start committing units to the political struggle, so to speak, which would make them less effective on the battlefield, but
Right.
give you votes in that way. Like maybe you get less HP or less power or something like that.
With the action system, it could resolve at the end of the round, and then you
Exactly.
like alternate
Yeah.
committing resources to it.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
kind of like a token, like a shield token or something that you would put on your unit, and it would be then committed to the political struggle or something like, and it would be like a -1/-1 or something like that, but it would provide the unit's power, I don't know, in that struggle, like
Maybe it has to survive the round too, or
yeah,
something.
yeah, something like
Like,
that.
oh, maybe I need to kill that now because it
Yeah.
just committed itself to the political event.
Yeah.
There's so much
Yeah.
potential in this kind of mechanic for sure. So
I think so, yeah. I think it can be really interesting in a two-player game. Obviously, it'd be incredibly interesting in a Twin Sons game.
Yeah.
But yeah.
that might actually get me playing Twin Sons.
Yeah, I've never played it, but we're like very competitive focused,
Right.
Bother Network. So that's not our thing, but it doesn't mean people don't do it or shouldn't do it. I mean, it's very popular.
I mean, I played the Vampire: The Eternal Struggle, where this was a core mechanic. This kind of thing was a core mechanic,
Yeah.
as well as in Game of Thrones, the LCG,
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So both of those are fantastic games that I played a lot. So yeah,
Yep.
We play Blood on the Clock Tower. It's a lot of
Oh yeah.
voting,
It's
voting
also very
systems there.
yeah. It's fun. That's a fun game. All right. Now, let's close this episode out with a discussion on how to best make sense of your own testing. So, why would you go through the effort of making statistics of your own play?
Well, I tend to do that more at a group level, to be honest. I do not personally collect a lot of stats about what I do. But within the group at Bothan Network, we do collect stats on when we play each other in our matches. And I know there are other members that collect stats on a lot of what they do. It's going to sound weird, but even as like a math guy that loves doing things with math and doing like this tournament analysis and stuff, when it comes to my own deck building, I have a lot of tools that I use to assemble my decks, but it's a lot of analytical thinking. Looking at the format, looking at the top decks, laying out my own deck, and just thinking a lot about my lines, and forming the lines that I want my deck to be able to do proactively. And so when I look at statistics and numbers, I'm looking more at how effectively I can assemble those lines that I'm trying to produce in the deck that I'm working on. And I don't do as much match analysis or like statistics of running that deck into other decks. It's more about what can this deck do? What's the theory behind this deck, and how can I most effectively apply it? And then try to run it into people and just kind of get an idea of, is it actually working or not? But yeah, I don't know if that's way off from what you expected, but like that's what I do.
I want to say one quick thing. I also like putting the deck out in front of me so I can see see the lines and try to do that thing. So I actually made a tabletop simulator mod to be able to do that digitally. So if you want to do that, I recommend my own mod for a tabletop simulator.
We may have used it. I don't know where the guys got the mod from, but we've done several internal sessions where we take a deck. I mean, I can talk about it now because it's banned. We did it with the Django deck.
Mhm.
And we had like this huge internal session about the Django deck. And we used a tabletop sim mod that helped us lay out the deck and lay out the lines. And like we did a session after session of trying to, analytically determine the best lines that we want, that we can run in that deck, and trying to nail down the best version of the deck.
So for a viewer who's not really onto what you're talking about here, lay out the lines. Could you explain to someone that's newer to this, what would that entail? How would you do that with
Yeah,
real cards if you had the real cards?
that is a good question that I think I get a little too in my own world when I talk about things like that. Maybe I'm not sure because I've had people ask me, "What do you mean when you say lines?" They're not quite sure. Like, what
So
does
we
that even
talked about
mean?
lines a lot on this podcast. Maybe we should explain it for once.
Yeah,
Good point.
exactly. So, from my perspective, when I talk about lines, you can use it in a lot of contexts, a lot of games. It can mean something a little bit different. From in this game, we have the alternating actions where each person does one thing at a time. So I think the term lines is more effectively applied to this game than many others.
Yeah.
And the game that you'll see it used in the most is chess, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Mhm.
We talk about chess lines. So we talk about openings, we talk about mid-game lines, we talk about tactics, we talk about strategies on the over the board, and we talk about end games. And in Star Wars Unlimited, we can talk about all those same things, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We have multiple arenas, we have different types of units, we have different ways of approaching defeating our opponent. And so there's plenty to talk about in terms of strategy. There's plenty to talk about in terms of tactics, particularly because of the initiative token. There's tons of tactics around claiming initiative or not. And then like abilities like Sentinel and Ambush give you a lot of tactical opportunities to decide, how to apply your cards and how to affect the board. So when I talk about lines, I mean things like what am I doing turn 1, 2, and 3? What's my very best turn 1, 2, and 3 in this deck, and in particular against certain matchups. So I play Palpatine the most, and I look at my lines against Sabine because I don't like throwing away that matchup. I want to actually win that game. So my early turns are completely focused on aggro and what kinds of lines can I present? What can be my turn 1 play? What can I, now that that's on the board, what turn 2 plays does that best enable or open up? So for example, I play Entrenched in my Palpatine deck because I want my turn 1 unit to then get +3/+3 and start bullying that lane. Either it's ground or space. And then I have 1 resource left over. What am I doing with that 1 resource? If my next line is to play Entrenched, so then maybe I want to play a Crumb. Maybe in some cases I want to play a different 2-drop and sack one of those units to do a damage and draw card. So when I say lines, I'm looking at that progression of turns from turn 1 to turn 4 or so. I don't think all the way to the end game when I'm thinking about lines. I'm mostly thinking about the opening lines and the start of the game. Once we get into the mid game, I'm thinking more about tactics and strategy. What are my best tactics that I can deploy? Like if I, again, in the Palpatine deck, if I have ramped, what tactics are available to me? What can I do to impact the board the most? If I have not ramped, what tactics are available to me? What can I do to impact the board the most and progress my plan to flipping my leader, taking one of your units, and winning the game, right? And so for each leader and deck, you're going to be thinking about each of those phases a little differently.
And I think that the term line is very useful even when you look at something in the mid or end game, because it does imply a sequence of actions,
Right. Yeah, it does.
involving a sequence of cards or board states, and that it's a very meaningful way to analyze your play. So you said that you were laying it out together in the team. What would that entail? How do you lay out the lines, like physically?
So, yeah, it is like putting the card on the table and having it in front of you and like thinking about imagining you're playing that card and then what card do you want to play next and having those actually on the table. And for me, I would create like some branches sometimes. Like if I play this card first, what of my next options, what are the best? And then if I choose option A, what would then be best? If I choose B, what would then be best? C, what would then be best? And you also have to consider, like even in chess, when you look at chess lines and chess openings, they're going to include your opponent's moves as well, right? And their like best options, and not just one option. Like what different lines? Like in chess, if you have the white pieces, you go first, but then they can do anything they want, right? So then, like ultimately, the opening line you go down depends on both players, and it's the same in this game. If I play to the ground arena with initiative, my opponent has the option to play to the space arena. And now what do? If I played my ground unit, they play a space unit. Do I need to do something on my next turn to contest that arena, or can I race them in ground? Like I need to think about how these lines branch based on what my opponent does, not just what's in my deck.
And I think, like, physically, if you take your deck and you start putting cards down in this way that you describe it, branching out, like this would be some of the, if I would to play this unit the first turn, then I'd play this card the second turn, or this card. And then when you get down the lines, if you start realizing that your 3 copies of a card isn't enough to show all the different lines you want to use it for, then you know that card belongs in your deck. Like that's a very, very clear indicator that this
Right.
card is in more than 3 of my lines. I need this card in my deck, you know?
That's a good one.
Exactly.
I really like that, and if I only have 2 of it in my deck, and I start needing more copies of it to visualize my lines, that is a clear indicator that maybe I should go up to 3 of that card. You know, at least I should think about it. You know,
and the opposite. If it's in less of your lines, maybe you play 1 of them because you still want access to it, because it's like the 3rd step in your line, so you have a much higher chance of having access to it. So it's okay to just have 1 or 2. But if it's the first play in a very common line, you want all 3. And then look at all the cards that are available to you. Is there some redundancy? Other cards that do almost the same thing. Now I can get up to 4, 5, 6 copies of something that opens me into this line that I'm interested in.
Yeah, certainly. Like, I've been playing a lot of Sabine, which is the opposite of playing Palpatine, obviously. But to this, like, up until this moment, all my starting lines would have been, it's been more or less interchangeable, whether I start with an A-Wing, or Green Squadron A-Wing, or a Battlefield Marine. They have been interchangeable up until this set. And now, all of a sudden, I realized that the A-Wing is part of way fewer lines because of what I'm facing, like the opposition here. And that's something we talked on in my latest State of Sabine video. It's just a really interesting thought. Like, you see how a card is pushed to the side, and that's when you might go down to 2 copies, 1 copies, or cut it all together.
You've got more matchups where you might ping first to force your opponent to make the first move, or you might not. You might want to lane dodge, so you might want to keep your options open, or you might need to keep 2 options in your hand in case you get sparked or bazined. Like all these kinds of things that you need to. Those are the parts of like your line analysis where you need to be thinking about what's really common in the meta and what strategies your opponents are going to be applying, because they're the other half of that line. You know, it's not just what you do.
Yeah. Pontus, what do you do? How do you keep track of your testing?
I don't really do much keeping track of testing. I mean, I haven't started taking notes or anything about specifically for my own testing, actually. So the only thing is, like, I play the deck and I I notice that certain cards aren't getting used in any lines, for example. And then okay, this doesn't fit, I should remove it. More like that. It's not like actually writing anything down.
Well, part of it is I wonder what Jonathan thinks about this deck. Right?
yeah, that's one of the most important parts. Yeah.
That's part of it. That's one element of it.
I had a New Year's resolution together with Adam for our New Year's episode of the pod, where I promised I should start keeping track much more of my resourcing decisions. And I did that a lot for set 3. I used to hand over the cards and photographed what I had in the resource row afterwards. Since I was running in set 3, I was running mostly Krennic, so there weren't all that much smuggling going on anyway. So it would be pretty
Yeah.
consistent throughout what were actually resourced, and that just taking an image of that, and then every now and then I just sat down and looked at the pictures and just check marked in my inventory, like this is how often I resource these cards. And then, like you said, in Screw Stats you could just mark it up from different kinds of play as well. It used to be, I don't know if it's tracked anymore because I haven't checked in a while, but it used to be checked very well in that software that they were using, your resource decisions.
Yeah, it does.
I think it
Yep.
still is. So I've been much more lazy now in set 4 in doing that. I've been back on Sabine, and the resourcing is much harder. It's something that I end up thinking so much more about that I don't find myself needing to look afterwards. It's been a very conscious effort throughout. Like with Krennic, it wasn't the be all end all of what I was doing. I usually would have a healthy hand and whatever, this seems least likely to be played right now, and you just resource it.
I should do that for
Sabine,
counter decks, I think.
yeah, with Sabine,
Yeah,
it was it's so important,
It's pretty interesting in Hunter what's in your resources.
Yep.
Yeah. Hunter really cares, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But I love that point. It's one of the great things about this game, right? And games like this that let you take any card and turn it into a resource.
Yeah.
It's a decision point that cascades throughout the game, right? Like I played in a 60-person tournament yesterday, and in my Sabine matches, the resourcing was so incredibly important. I would get to like the next turn and realize, oh my gosh, I need that card I just resourced. I didn't think we were going to go down that line, but we just did because my opponent went down that line and forced us into it. And now that card that would be my next play in that line is in my resource row.
Yep.
Yeah.
I made a mistake. Now, how do I get out of this? And I've had a lot of situations where like my opponent would maybe at the end of the game would be like, man, I don't know what happened. I don't know how I lost this game. And I'd be like, well, let's flip over your resources.
Yeah.
That's the first thing we need to look at. Like, when did you resource that card? Because on turn 3, that would have been an incredible card to have in your hand. Oh, I resourced it on turn 2. Well, then maybe you should have resourced something else. Yep. And like it brings up a lot of conversation and a lot of discussion about which of those branches you went down, which of the lines you set yourself up to be able to play into.
Yeah. This game is so deep. Is so deep. It's so deceptively deep. When I looked at this game when I first saw it, and I was not impressed. It looked so straightforward and so like just run of the mill. But then you start trying it, and there's so much in the details of this game. It just keeps amazing me. So another aspect of this, when you're testing and when you're working on your decks and when you're doing, what do you share? With who do you share? And is there any point of being public with this kind of information, or should it be kept in your close-knit group?
Yeah, it's actually a very contentious topic for the Bothan network right now, to give you like some insight into, how we operate. We have taken the perspective of being more secretive in the past and being like, look, we're a large team. We have a lot of players. They're all very good. We can just test amongst ourselves, and we don't necessarily need to share any of that information outside of our group because we have enough resources to do that. That's one theory, right? And another theory would be, well, let's still play with other people and have matches outside of our group to get new ideas and to just play against other people. Even though we are a large team, it's still hard to schedule sometimes. So let's just play with whoever we want to. And if we identify something that's particularly interesting, let's keep that to ourselves. So it is a tough balance, and it is hard to identify when you've found something that's worth protecting, and whether and just do you even have an event coming up within that set that is worth protecting some piece of technology for, is kind of how we're thinking about it and how I think about it.
Yeah. On the other
Yeah.
hand, on the other end of that spectrum, you've got something like KTOD, who is just, they keep their deck list completely open. Like what's in their open deck lists is what they bring to the tournaments. They
Yeah, I
It's
don't
open
think
to
that's
members only, right?
not
Yeah.
well, yes, and I don't know that it's true for their like very small handful of top competitive players that they sponsor, right? Like,
yeah,
but
maybe
like
not all of
Mike,
them.
Mike, Stevie, like those guys. Yeah, Mike for sure just
Yeah,
posts his deck.
and
Body Sapphire.
Matty and
Like,
Justin as
yeah,
well. Yeah,
yeah, Mike, Matty, Justin, those guys that run their podcast
yeah,
and like are the core of KTOD. Yeah, they'll just post they'll post their decks, they'll share their ideas.
yeah.
I think like Tata and
Alex,
Woo and
yeah,
Alex are
they're
a
a little
little
bit more
less
secretive.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're like they're the competitive group for KTOD's team. So
And also,
it's a little different.
Woo's got it on his own Patreon. I think he's
Yeah.
on his Patreon. It's all open. So
Yeah, I think you're right. So,
Yeah.
and I do
Yeah.
believe he shares his tournament decks as well. There,
Yeah,
like
Yeah.
if
yeah,
you
yeah.
if you were playing against him, you could just
Yeah.
go look at his Patreon and
yeah,
there's his list.
pretty much. And I think
Yeah.
Michael Bobby Sapphire made a point of that. Like he's going to update to the very current version all the time. So
Right.
if you sit across from him, he could be playing with open deck list because it is going to be public information. And I think
Yeah, and across the network, that is what he said in
Yeah,
our
exactly.
conversation. He's like, if you sit down across from me, you welcome to go look at my list. It's right there.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting approach because at least from the beginning, I don't know where they're at with that now, but from the beginning, the idea was just that, like, the more ice you get on something, the stronger it's going to get, and they believe in themselves as
Right.
pilots. They're not
Right.
gonna tell you their lines. They're not gonna tell you how they're doing it. Well, to some extent, they
And
do
they
as
actually
well.
will.
They actually
Yeah.
will when I think of it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's they have so much confidence in how they're playing the decks that they just want to make sure that the decks are the strongest they can be.
Yeah.
So they just want to get as many eyes on them as possible. And I think that's an interesting approach.
I mean,
It's
It is.
very contrary to what you would see from something like Magic or the top teams in other competitive CCGs.
it's more like community focused. Like we are building this deck together, so we're not secret
Exactly.
about it. It's like
It's very
Well, I think it's rooted in the goals of that group, I think.
yeah.
Like for KTOD, they have a community that they have built up, that they drive, that has it's a small fee, but you have to pay to be a part of it. So it's behooving to them to create as large of a community as they can.
Mhm.
And that, and they do a great job of that, and they produce really competitive decks. They have very competitive players in
Indeed.
their group and in their Discord.
Yeah.
So, you're going to get good results if you go hang out with them and bounce ideas around. But
Well, I mean-
for us, our goal is to win tournaments. We do have a Discord, and we love doing things like we've done brawl nights.
Yeah.
There was like a European tournament coming up, and we did like a midday brawl where folks in Europe came over and we set up different tables with a different bothan at each table, and you could jump in and play us and do like practice matches with us to prepare for your tournament. And we've done that for a US tournament and for an EU tournament, and maybe we'll do that some more in the future. But like, we like engaging with the community, but there's no like, that's not our goal. Our goal is to win tournaments. And so then if engaging with the community can help us get better, we want to do it.
It's
Like
a give and take.
everything needs to come from that goal. Even though like it's not entirely selfish. It sounds selfish, right?
Yeah,
Like it
it's-
sounds like,
it's give and take.
like you don't care about the community. But it's yes, we love the community. We want to interact with the community, but we need to make sure that we can go back and say this does help us meet our goal of winning tournaments.
yeah, there's a balance there. You
Yeah.
keep some secrets, but not all of them.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think, I mean, I've been a member of your Discord server for quite a while now, and I've been jamming games a lot there, just going in there looking for game channel or just pop into one of the voice chats, and especially Carlos, Yoda Killer. That
Yeah.
guy is just, that's the best dude. He'd pop in and like, yeah, you want to play some? Yeah, come on. And we'd play,
Yeah, yeah.
And also like Ryan and other people, like people are very open. Like the Bothans are
Yeah.
not this closed off, secretive thing. Like it's a bunch of pretty chill dudes.
Oh yeah. I mean, to get on the team, it requires a nomination from someone from the team. It requires like a period where you get to know people on the team, and then we vote. So 75% of the active team members have to vote to add you to the team. So and then our two rules. If something's a secret, you have to keep it a secret. You cannot be the leak. And then the other rule is good attitudes. Like don't be a jerk. And if you are, we're gonna ask you to leave. So like that is, we want chill people. We want people that are going to be fun to hang out with. Like we actually think that's really important, that you have fun hanging out with the people you practice with, and because it's going to motivate you to do it more often. It's going to motivate you to engage and become a better player because you care about the people you play with. And when you think about yourself as a team, you want to do the best you can. So we actually think that's a really important part of forming a really good team, which you might think it's just about player skill, but we don't think so. We think it's a combination of player skill, and we enjoy hanging out with you.
Yeah, that makes it so much sense. Yeah. I think that's a good point to end on, right?
Yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah, sure.
Jonathan, if people got interested in what you had on your mind here, where can they find more from you, and what should they check out?
Yeah, we're on YouTube and Spotify as Across the Network, just all spelled out. And that is a weekly to every 1 to 2 weeks, depends on how much editing work I have to do, where it's myself and Lego Pizza, or Ian Klein from Botha Network. We're the two co-hosts for that podcast, and we bring people on like Mike Jem, Bobby Sapphire, and Stevie, and George the Hulk from our team. A lot of awesome guests that come on and talk with us. Yeah. He's on the next episode that we're posting. He was on a previous episode. So, just great guests. And we talk about the news. We talk about events that happened, and each guest has like something they're very, very good at. And we make that one of our main segments, like whatever kind of specialty they have. That's why they're on the episode, and we make sure that that's an important part of it, like how we talked about statistics and stuff on this podcast.
Yeah,
we form it around our guest, and then for every single segment, the guest is a primary participant, even if it's not their specialty. And we just put on a good show that we think people would love to listen to on their commutes to work, things like that.
So if you're ever making a Hunter episode, you're calling me, right?
Yes. You're coming on the Hunter episode. So if you crack the Hunter deck and you go win a major tournament with Hunter, I'm saying it now, we will have a Pontus episode. Okay?
Absolutely.
You have to win a big tournament. Okay, that's a high bar with Hunter. But if
What do you
pull
mean?
it off, it's not. Hunter deploys on 7 and does not impact the board, my friend. It is very challenging.
Why didn't anyone tell me?
But if you do it, you're coming on. I'm inviting you. Go win a big tournament with Hunter, and we'll have that episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've had a great time. I hope listeners have had a great time as well. And I think that's it. Any last words?
So deck builder on TTS.
Yeah, check that out. It's a good one.
Yeah, come check out the Botha Network Discord. Come hang out with us. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right.
Fun.
So that's it for now. May the force be with you.